Hello, and welcome to Plugin of the Week from Point Blank Hub.
Yes.
And today we are with Declan.
We are, the center of our amazing studio.
Absolutely.
Everyone's just been on their break. We're hearing some classical music in this ear.
Yes, there was.
Some EDM trance going on in this ear.
Some drum recording,
Beautiful
which I believe...
drum recording, we'll take that out tomorrow.
We'll take that to tomorrow. We'll pop in so you can have a look at what's... This week is really quite busy. And I believe this is the last plugin of the week for you, Declan.
It is my last plugin of the week.
Sadly.
Very, very upsetting.
Yeah, indeed.
As always, save the best for last, kind of.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This one is Eventide again. We love Eventide.
We do love
hardware
Eventide.
And the software.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's called Omnipressor, and it's part of the ensemble bundle, which you can get. Let me just see if I can get the website up here. There we go. Which you can get a standalone, own it, keep it for the rest of your life, $149, or you can rent it on one of the subscription things where you get all their plugins for $30 a month, I think. Which is pretty good because
pretty good deal.
As we've seen before, the harmonizers.
The harmonizers
fantastic, the reverbs are amazing,
yeah.
H3000.
And that also includes the H3000, isn't it?
Yep.
And the black hole reverb.
Yes.
Which I still haven't personally tried, but I've heard so many good things about it.
Absolutely, yeah, it's
we
great.
really want to check it out, actually. And
so those, you can get for $29.
Yeah, and the Omnipressor is one of those compressors that has a bit of a twist to it in the way, isn't it?
It does indeed. They actually call it dynamics processor because it is a gate as well. Yeah. I mean, it has gate functionality in the kind of expander and then attenuation gain.
Yes.
Which we'll get to in a sec.
Yeah.
They say otherworldly sounds, which I think is a fair enough statement, creating otherworldly sounds, limiting and then dynamic reversal. Well, let's just
it is that kind of almost, inside-out compressor.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's 6 dials. The range of sounds you can get from it is insane. It has really nice harmonics. So I'll just play. What I've been using it for recently is that kind of what's really sound that everyone's kind of going for right now in house. Very VHS compressed, very kind of like squashed, hissy sound, which tends to have a lot of harmonics
and have that as a parallel treatment.
Sometimes, I've got it on both here. I'll just play this loop, which is all made up of Apple loops, which I just made before we started this broadcast. So again, very 80s, classic. So pretty compressed every sound, and I'll just show you what the drums are doing here. So these are the drums. So one Omnipressor on the channel itself, and then one in parallel. Let me just see if I can split these up. There we go. So this is the parallel one. This is the one on the channel. And I'll just turn it off, the parallel completely.
Wow.
So that's the loop.
Unprocessed loop, or whatever process has just been done as a,
Just the way it came out of the Apple Loops folder. This is just to take the transients, just to flatten it a tiny bit.
And what kind of setup do you have on there?
Not doing very much, 11 dB. It's doing about 3 dB max.
Okay. Yeah,
and it's got a pretty slow release, very controlled. Not really trying to do anything crazy. It does have the bass sidechain on it, which we'll get to in a second. It's kind of important. And very much change the sound of this compressor.
So the only thing about the slow release, I guess, that means it's constantly compressing.
Pretty much.
That kind of, as you can see, the way it's moving, it's kind of compressing quite consistently.
It's never really, but it's not too pumpy either.
Yeah,
which is what I wanted because this one is the opposite of that. And it brings a lot of space. So if you just solo, I'll just take out that little bit of synth that's going in there as well, so we can hear it in isolation. So yeah, that's where that kind of like, I'll just turn this way up. So I get very hiss. Let's close this one. Is it the right one? Getting confused now. Here we go. So yeah. That's the compression happening, but I'm using these limits, which we'll get to in a sec, to stop it from being too crazy. Which is really one of the best things about this. This is like a parallel master for me. I love this in parallel. Parallel drums, obviously, can be as extreme or as subtle as you need them to be. This is quite an extreme example. So let's have a look at what we're doing here. So release time's very low, so that it's stopping the transients initially, but allowing the space between the drums, which is why you're hearing that hiss. So the hiss is being boosted, but the transients themselves are being reduced. Not too much though, about like 9 dB, which is a lot, but in parallel, in parallel world,
it's not that much.
It's not against.
No,
there's no rules,
not at all. Not
and
at
it's
all.
not that much. Yeah, so you can take it way down. The reason it doesn't change that much is because of these attenuation and gain limits.
Yeah.
So essentially, what you can do is set a limit so that no matter how much you compress, it'll
You're
never
still getting the
attenuate beyond
kind
a
of
certain point. And no matter how much you compress, it'll never boost it beyond a certain point. But with the expander, so you can kind of keep it a bit more controlled. I find a lot of the time with other plugins and other compressors in parallel, when you try and hit them really hard, they panic.
Yeah.
And they let some stuff through.
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
get these
yeah.
weird spikes
Yeah, yeah.
where they're trying to keep up with how heavily it's being compressed.
Yeah.
This way, it's the same. The glue compressor in Ableton has the same thing. It's a range knob where it'll just say, no matter how much I do, I can't compress more than, say, 10 dB.
Yeah.
And then you can just go to town with it. On the attack and
The
release
multiband,
settings.
the wave multiband compressor is the same.
Right.
So if you put the range target of 6, what it tends to do after that is everything compressed by 6, but never below that anyway.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a safety net.
It stops it from getting those real sucky sounds that you can sometimes get in parallel.
Yeah, totally.
Because I want to bring up the space, but I don't want it to be like sound like it's struggling to breathe. Like sometimes they do in parallel. So that's why that's what gives it that VHS kind of cassette tape sound. That's a lot of the time the cassette tape would just distort flat. And just remain completely flat because it was so compressed.
And it has that flavor too.
Exactly,
It's constantly compressed rather than moving. And then the threshold almost dictates how much of that loop gets compressed within that range of 6 dB.
Exactly. I mean, it is moving, but not anything crazy.
No, yeah.
And if I turn the attenuation limit pretty much off, and we'll just turn it up a little bit more. Every time the kick comes, the hiss disappears because it's getting pulled away. But it can be much more consistent with that. I mean, it's pretty subtle, especially on these little speakers. But it does make a difference, especially if with parallel you want to retain the original transient. You don't want your parallel to bring in to affecting the transients too much of the original sound. So let's bring it back down. So pretty nice. What I sometimes find is even though it has a sidechain, a bass sidechain, I'm not sure what frequency that is. It simply just says cut or normal.
So it could be
probably about 60 or 80 or something.
60 or 90, depends on,
turn it off, and it's much more compressed. Because the kick's quite strong.
To the kick.
So I just want to take that out. And even what I'll sometimes do is even put it on the parallel chain,
so you're
put another EQ in to remove it completely. I want the snare in there, but I don't want the kick.
Okay, and you want the kick to come through from the main original
kick to come
sound.
through the main thing, not get compressed.
Less rough, right? A bit cleaner, a bit rounder, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. So very hissy, very lo-fi. I like it.
That's what we like.
So what I've done then, where do we go? Here we go. So this is a bass line. What I've done, it's just an Apple loop. Just take the gate off and take everything off. It's very different.
Yeah.
There's a delay on that too, we'll take that off too. Not very exciting.
Not very exciting. Indeed.
That's just an Apple loop that I've just shortened to half a bar or whatever it is. And then I put a noise gate on it and sidechained it to the kick. So it responds, to the drums, so it's responding
straight away there's
every
a
time.
better groove to it.
Because otherwise you're just going to have a dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun. It's going to get very repetitive very quickly.
Yeah.
This way the drums are defining how the rhythm goes.
Yeah,
gives it a bit more space. But what I've actually done here is use the expander. This is a complete happy accident because I was trying to compress it and I went the wrong way because the way that you compress is there's a function knob here, and that's everything to the left is expansion and everything to the right is compression. And then those are the ratios dialed in there.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it, even though there's only six dials, the range of sound is huge, all because you can just quickly sweep through this and go, that's cool. Whereas you would have to make a conscious decision in another plugin.
Of course.
I'm going to use the expander, switch the expander on and change the settings. That's what makes it really creative, this plugin. It was probably a limitation of hardware at the time, but anyway, so it's going to change quite drastically when I put this on. So it's just distorting like crazy. It's basically once it crosses the threshold, it gets gets boosted by the plugin, and then once it gets boosted, every time the red light comes on, it's getting boosted. So you're only getting the harmonics on certain notes. Quite a lot of distortion, but I like the sound, so I was like, yeah, that's quite cool. Again, I've left the bass in this time. If we just take that out. So what's happening there is it's actually, you want to leave it in because
it doesn't compress the low note.
It's not being compressed at all. It's been expanded. So you want the notes to be expanded evenly. So I'll leave that on. And then I've also put, instead of having a makeup gain, which is a bit of another strange anomaly of this plugin, you've got just like +10, +20. It's pretty extreme. I mean, +20. And you can combine them to go +30, which is just, you know, very rare you want to go that far. You can just turn that off and it'll just be nominal level then.
Nominal level, okay.
So, still pretty cool groove. And I've just put that on to give it even more distortion. And then there's an input calibration as well. So it doesn't have like an input or output level as such. It's just -20 buttons.
It's starting at a nominal level.
Yeah, and then can be reduced or boosted.
Okay.
Again, you know, just put a gain plugin before the plugin. So then bring it back in.
And you had a delay on it as well, which was
yes.
the groove.
Bit loud, but yeah. So there you go.
Cool.
So this is not a compressor that's going to be, you know, a clinical go-to for mixing. It's as much for sound design. And for, okay, I need a character for things. Certain compressors you'll reach for because you just need to do something functional. You don't actually want to add loads of harmonics or anything.
If you want to kind of like, I guess, you know, shave off 2-3 dBs in the most transparent way.
Yeah, vocals is a great example. You just want the vocal to sit better, but you don't want it to become have more character as such. Maybe you do.
I mean, but most of the time I do, but...
Just you might use two compressors then, or use the clinical one, and then you'll use the modelled one, as it were. And then this is just to show harmonics again, and it's just a little sound that was, again, from the...
Very Phil Collins.
Yes, which is why I put it on there.
Absolutely.
Again, just adding loads of harmonics with the Omnipressor.
Cool.
Some expansion. It's just constantly boosting it, basically. Because the threshold's quite low. And there's no limits whatsoever on this one.
You've gone for it.
Yeah, just gone for it. And there's, there we go. So
it has a nice drive to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, really nice. And really, you don't even necessarily need that because you can just turn it up and it's got quite a lot going for it. But as soon as you start to process other sounds in your mix in this way, everything else needs to come up to meet it in some way.
Otherwise,
especially if you're going for that lo-fi cassette tape sound where everything is squashed.
Otherwise, there's not really a cohesive picture because some of it has that treatment, some doesn't.
Exactly,
it doesn't really belong in the same space.
And this is just a little vocal thing. I just thought I needed one more element. So I just chopped up something from Apple Loops. Use the Octavox from Eventide, which is wonderful. Maybe one day you'll have a look at it. I don't know.
I shall do that.
It's really good. And then Omnipressor again doing some expansion. I don't even know it's distorting. Distorting varies slightly. Nothing too crazy. What I find with expansion though, and using threshold and expansion, you can get really interesting grooves going. One sound might cross the threshold and the others won't. And suddenly they change in timbre. So it's just a little way of getting some interesting grooves going. That's what's happening with the bass line. And that's got some delay on it as well. And then on the master, I've used it too. Doing like, not very much, 4 max.
So on this one you're going for kind of a gentle...
I'll just turn that off. I think I only did it to control the peaks because it was completely. So again, a functional, but it does affect the sound. From 1971, so it is a very, it can add a lot of harmonics.
Absolutely.
And I think I just got some more examples of what it sounds like. What it's really good at doing is bringing up the space in between sounds. Anything like percussion, claps, snares, things like that. It'll make them. It should just bring up another little another loop from the Apple Loops library. Just some percussion. And then I've got the same compressor as the drums on the first loop, and then same parallel.
Wow.
And it just brings it forward.
It's really, but it also brings, like you say, it's filling up the gaps.
The atmosphere. Yeah, exactly.
It brings up.
Obviously, you have to be careful because you can't have everything to have a little atmosphere, or your mix is going to be a lot of soup, a lot of space.
Yeah.
You got to pick and choose.
You've got to pick the right element.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, it goes with the groove.
Yeah, can really affect the groove as well. And then one more little loop to show you, and then I'll show you some presets, of which there are quite a few. It's a little melody, 80s melody I've called it, surprise, surprise. Omnipressor is running, let's have a look. So another cool thing that it sounds really good when you sidechain it. And you can already hear the rhythm that it's providing. It's coming from a kick, which I'll activate in a second. So a little bit of gain. I think it's got like an auto gain function as well. And that's why it's like compressing and then pushing forward.
Because this time around you're using it as a compressor, not as an expander.
Compressor, but it varies 1.5, 1.6. Attack time, release time are both pretty quick. So just, that's the original. That hiss that it adds.
And again, the drive, the little bit of drive.
I mean, it's not actually adding hiss. It's bringing up the noise.
The noise, it just brings the noise flow in between.
It's not adding hiss to the sound.
No,
And that's like an important distinction. It's not a hiss, full of hiss.
No. It's just bringing the noise flow, the background noise that normally you don't hear as much.
Exactly. Which is what it's great at, and again, which is a very low-fi.
Which most compressors do as soon as you do makeup gain anyway, if you compress it heavily. But that is a very good example.
So then I just put that loop on it, which I think is, again, going into the same Omnipressor parallel compression. So yeah, now let's turn that off. Let's get that bass back in. And then so that's it with the parallel. Without it. But it's fine. But then it's just got so much more character and pulsates more, has more groove, in my opinion.
Totally, I think it goes. And when you choose your, the right attack and release time, you emphasize the groove, the existing groove, and reinforce it a lot more, and it grooves, it makes you head nod just a little bit more.
And then with the, which is sidechained, it just has a lot of character, this thing. And I'll just very quickly show you some presets, because as it said on the website, it's capable of a lot of different types of things. So they've got compression, limiting, expansion, gating, vocals, instruments. I mean, mixing and mastering. I'm not sure how much you would use it in mastering, but you never know. It's probably not a great example to demo some mastering stuff. Let's just see what we've got.
Wow, this is...
Let me just take the sidechain off as well, so you can... Oh, it's actually quite cool.
The sidechain really works.
Yeah. So again, let me try this on some drums. It's usually the best thing to demo compressors on. Turn that off. So this is just the drums by themselves. Some of Brian Montgomery. Come on, Brian. Yeah, pretty straightforward. What I wish it had was a dry wet control. I don't know why it doesn't have a dry wet control, considering it's so extreme. I mean, it's trying to be, the original. The original didn't have one, so it's just trying to recreate it. But, in this modern age, why not stick one on? Yeah, so pretty extreme examples of compression. Maybe a bit intense.
No, but it's great. I think it shows, the range of sound that you can get.
Yeah, totally. And that's a sound design function for me. That's not a mixing function. You would just want to destroy it and then use it as a. It's got some other like 1176, 1177. And then you can just
I can see that.
So again, like without it. So yeah, a really nice compressor. For that type of sound. It's not going to be a SSL bus compressor, which is more.
Absolutely, slightly more subtle. Where you can scratch, but that is a different.
It's all in the kind of
and the harmonics that it creates.
Area.
A little bit more, but in a kind of on their extreme settings.
Yeah.
You know, like the tricks you do on 1176 of having
when you press all the buttons.
all
at
the
same
buttons,
time,
you know, it's that kind of you can get that kind of pumping
Yeah.
where it's really sucking the sound.
Yeah, and that's $149. Or like I said before, you can get it in
As a subscription, well worth
all
it.
of them.
Well worth it. It's a great
Yeah,
tool.
definitely. I really like that one. So there you go. Eventide Omnipressor. Great little plugin. And if you want to come and check out the school, and
there's a tour today.
There is a tour today.
There's every Wednesday there's a tour,
but
5:30, but you can book for tours Wednesday and Saturdays.
Yeah, at 12:30. So just go to pointblankmusicschool.com and hit the contact us button, and you can book yourself on a tour to come and see our awesome facilities here. And you guys will be back next week. I won't be back next week, but they'll be back next week.
I'll be back next week.
With another plugin of the week.
Yes.
So it's bye from me. Bye.
Thanks, guys.